What's going on, guys? Daniel here. Today I'm actually doing a different type of video. I'm going to be doing a reaction video. I'm reacting to one of Dylan's old vlogs called Danny D Becomes a Mentee. This is when I was formally introduced into Hardcore Head Start, and I think it's really relevant at the moment because what we're doing with Hang with Hardcore, the podcast, is we're recreating our journeys and we're putting it online for you guys to learn from. Now, the first part of anyone's journey is always character development. So something we're really going to highlight today is my flaws, who I was back then, just to really make sure that people understand that anyone can take this journey and become successful and financially free. So it's going to be a bit of a weird one to watch myself, especially my former self. If you knew me back then, this is the person you'd remember. Completely different human being at the moment. So hope you can kind of start to understand who I am now. Let's get into it.
This is Earth Radio.
Oh, it's the Danny D.
Now here's human music.
Oh!
Just small.
Fuck, he's actually more.
Here's the Danny D.
How are you, mate?
See, like, it keeps bottoming here. This
Oh.
line.
Saw us in there.
Yeah, she's fucking like right there. She's just above. And I bought a few there. All my cash is in there.
So first one here, one of my flaws, especially when I was younger, was I was very egotistical and very selfish. So for me to kind of be giving my opinion on what I think is happening is me just, wanting to say something, not actually having anything to say. I see this a lot in the younger generation as well. The internet is probably I see it all over the internet, I should say. And I'd just like to say, a person who was like that, my former self, get out of your own way, drop your ego and listen to the people who are trying to add value to you. You'll progress a hell of a lot faster as well. So
Same here. I'm just sitting on it. Everything goes in there every paycheck. I pay my bills, go out to dinner with the missus, and put everything.
I had a course yesterday.
very, very true. I want to highlight that. We had a time-based opportunity back in 2017, which is when this was shot, early February. So what we were doing then is trying to pour as much money into the market as possible. And that is true. I was putting a hell of a lot of money, especially at that age, just working my ass off, working 70 to 100 hour weeks, really trying to put as much money in as possible.
Yeah, how'd you go?
Mate, it's like the first one in 6 months. Cause my mindset was like, oh shit, am I going to be rusty or not? Wake up like 7:30, get to work like 8:30.
You worked as well.
In the morning. Work till 3 p.m. Nicholas is cooking my staff meal and take it for ages. So I'm not getting it right on 3 o'clock. I'm like, man.
I know about a flaw, but just a funny thing to note is like, why am I not in the video? Like, we're filming content and I'm just out of the video.
Yeah, and pump it out. Because we start at exactly 4. Had a quick shower, and then just started going 4 until 12:30 in the morning. It's a fucking big one.
Fuck yeah, that's a big day.
Even if you invest only $1, but get like a 20% return over your whole entire life, we calculated it ends up being like, at a certain, I think it's about 50 years, ends up being almost $10,000.
Hello. What? No, that's alright. It was a long time ago. What's up?
So Dylan's talking about, the power of compound interest there, which is one of the most important investing principles. Right, just really one of the most important things in life to understand. And this better been a really important phone call, because for me to interrupt such like a valuable moment like that, clearly didn't retain the information at this point. Didn't understand value obviously as well at this point, which is very, very interesting. So it's good to look back on.
Yeah, we have late tonight. Alright, wait.
How do you like me things up here?
Fucking dope.
Musky.
Muskie's my man. Every time.
What about Connor?
Oh, I didn't even see that. Oh, it has quotes. That's
So we put those up there for inspiration and motivation. We call the principle Top 5 Heroes. We actually have an episode on it. It's our very first one in the Hang with Hardcore podcast, so go and check it out. You know, we like to be inspired by A-class people, the best in their field, and you know, we can learn so much from them, and we create a virtual community around those people, and we also create a physical environment. You know, we put those people in our physical environment, I should say, you know, so that pumps us up and really, you know, motivates us to get going.
Fucking fresh.
Mate, he's a good looking bloke.
It's probably because he's better looking and better at everything than me, but that's alright. Fuck it.
Look, that actually is you in the mid.
What? That's me.
That's you in the mid, mate.
That's me in the middle.
Look at your hair, mate.
Oh.
Listen, I might take that compliment. You used to look like Beckham. I appreciate that one. But he's referring to, I used to have a massive ponytail. Well, not massive, but, you know, ponytail going from like top of my head back down to, you know, the base of my neck. Which, not sure about the style choice, but if people are interested, I might bring it back.
It used to be my haircut, didn't it?
What I want to do though is, because this side kind of looks professional, and being inspired by this fella Elon Musk.
That's so turned up.
Alright, I want to do what he did. Is he didn't even have a bed when he was starting up. Mindset was, all I need is an office.
I read that, yeah.
Yeah, remember?
So, I'll tell you something that really kind of inspired me or helped me, you know, start this journey of hardcore hairstyle is when you have a person like Dylan who's willing to put so much skin in the game, and by that I mean, you know, our rooms or our bedrooms, if you live in a share house or if you live in your house, whatever house you live in, it's your safe place, right? That's where you go to be alone. That's where you go to sleep. That's where you got to do whatever you got to do. He decided to sacrifice that and created an office for hardcore head start. You know, for me, that's massive skin in the game, and I didn't understand the principle of skin in the game back then, but I knew it was a big thing for him to really, you know, uproot his life and change it just for the boys. So, yeah.
So that's what I want to do. I want to turn it into a proper office. Yeah, I might organise it in the game, but then I want to put in a big whiteboard as well.
Yeah.
Either a whiteboard or.
So you're not going to go to the wall, that wall?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Don't
I just
go
want.
to,
I want it so you can
just
see.
go to like to there.
Yeah. So you can stand.
There-ish to the door frame.
Yeah.
And come out.
Have you seen my new poster?
I haven't seen the most.
So this is the old one, yeah. Well, this big. Mate.
Oh, Jesus Christ!
Bring him down. Put him on the bed. Look at him.
Woo!
1.5. 1.5 meters, mate. Tell you a funny thing. I also got this Conor McGregor poster, yeah. So I bought it, right? I thought it was just the top, because in the picture it just shows that.
Yeah.
Then you click on the image. As soon as you click on the image, it flops out like that. I'm like, I do not want to be waking up to that every single morning. Like, this was alright, but as soon as this comes out,
It just keeps going.
me together, latest Gary Vee video.
Fucking love Gary Vee. Holy shit.
Oh man,
Hold up, don't
you got a G-banger in here.
Guess I don't really need to kind of explain that flaw, do I? There's a really kind of powerful video from a naval officer, right? And he speaks about making your bed the first thing in the morning. And what that is, you know, you're trying to get that momentum in the morning, but it's also those small actions, you know, they'll allow you to kind of, you know, really be able to make those big changes in your life. And where I relate this to is if you can't make your bed in the morning, how are you going to be able to, you know, build a business? If you can't clean your car, which has an incredibly small amount of surface area, how are you actually going to build a business? You know, you're just not organized enough. And that was probably one of my things. I was a touch lazy when I was younger as well. So, yeah. Another thing is low standards. You know, I didn't think it was important to have a clean car, have a clean environment. I didn't understand how important environment was back then. So, yeah, standards were low.
Where are we going? Like, ish.
Yeah, let's keep going straight. Actually, yeah, keep going straight. So this is my first customer I'm serving. Like, I try and do it as absolutely perfect as I can.
Yeah.
Her, and I thought everything's going fine, yeah. And I'm like, oh, and I cooked the chicken. I'm like, oh, no problems. I'll do it anyway, because I thought maybe, possibly, somehow I made my own mistake.
Yeah.
And it's better than creating a big fuss over something that you don't know the answer to. and then I go and I cook it myself personally.
Yeah.
I hand it to her because she's watching. She's just standing there. I'm like, oh, here you go, and I decided to cook it personally for you. I guarantee it's the most perfect chicken you've ever had. And you know what she said?
So Dylan and I met at Nando's. We worked together for a few years, and that's where our relationship started. And that's where he started impacting me. So we used to talk about Nando's a hell of a lot. So
She's like, oh, you know, I used to work at Nando's as well. You were cooking the wrong procedure. You didn't scrape the grill and then wash it with water before putting my chicken on. I'm allergic to the bastings. What happens if I get sick now?
Oh, she's good.
I'm like, and I did it in the nicest way. I thought just like, I was just waiting for a big smile to come on her face. You're just a little vampire. Like, is this what your life is?
so a vampire, what we're speaking about there is someone who sucks, a vampire sucks blood. A vampire in our kind of terminology, it means to suck the energy out of an environment or the place you're in. They're always like the pessimists. They're always, the world sucks, the world hates me, etc., etc. So, yeah, don't be a vampire. Always pump up the people around you. Be the positive one in the environment. Be the leader.
Like, just trying to bring people down.
We were pumping. Even today we were pumping. We were on like $2,000 after like 3 o'clock.
I think we need to take a left up here. I think we went too far, actually.
Oh, really?
I might just highlight this now, because it's something that people have asked me for years and I've never spoken about it, is I used to wear glasses inside, outside, anywhere, all the time, and I usually had a hood on a lot as well. And that was, honestly, it was self-esteem issues and a bit of lack of confidence. I thought I had really bad skin when I was in high school. Maybe I did. So I used to, wear sunglasses to try and hide my face, but kind of a lack of maturity because, we know now after we left school and kind of matured that those things are just not really important. It doesn't really matter. But, yeah, kind of highlight like, dude, I was just a kid back here, man. That's 4 years ago. I was just a kid.
Talking too much. You ready? Here at the lights, we'll turn right.
Yeah.
So what we're gonna do, alright, is I haven't even told me Grant I'm coming.
Bloody scorch.
So there's a possibility she might not be here, but I just want to surprise her. Nah, because what I've been saying to her, she always asks me like, oh, when you coming back, visit me. I'm like, oh, I'm grinding away right now, and it's a bit tough for me because she's actually fucking old. And if I keep grinding, she might.
Old.
Yeah, it's like she might fucking be.
So yeah, this is a bit of a deep one. Not a flaw, but this is something we had to do, especially in this type at the start of the journey. Was we had a very time-based opportunity, right? And we wanted to work as hard as possible at the start of the journey. We wanted to go hardcore to get a head start. That's the point of the name. And what you have to do is, unfortunately, cut off a lot of relationships because you don't have time. So, I skipped a lot of family gatherings. I essentially, I left all of my friends back in high school. I can't say that I'm sorry because it got me into the position I am now. But I am planning on working on those relationships, and the point of that was to gain so much time back, by becoming financially free, which I am now, that I can then give that time and allocate it to those people and help them in a really impactful way. Not just be around them, but really change their lives.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like a tough one for me. So I left here. Or once it pays off, hopefully it pays off in the next couple of years or so, then I'll have more free time. So now I'm just actually got the free time.
That's exactly what
stick to
it's
my
all
word,
about.
mate.
Boy, good boy.
So go in and surprise her.
Good help out the Grant.
We'll get you in, you'll see her.
Oh, I love the Grant. What's the Grant's name? Grant?
Yeah, just Grant. Just turn the stop here, so. Fuck, she's not here. She's not here, mate. We'll have a little geese.
We're gonna have a geese in here.
Yeah, we'll have a geese. But yeah. Fuck, if she comes and she like sees two blokes there, she'll be shit scared.
Yeah.
But what I did for her was like I set up little alarm systems on the windows. When you open them up, triggers an alarm.
We see him?
Oh, is she that big? Blackie?
Where?
This Blackie.
Oh, fucking hell, man. That's not fitting in my car. I'll tell you that right now.
She looks decent, but.
She's leather.
Yeah. It's a fucking house. I don't have a mobile. Try to ring Granny.
Oh, you ring Nan at home when she's not home. That's a great idea. I'll go ahead start.
I got a mobile.
I'll go ahead start. We are smart.
Look at the. See the plaque? That's a dog. 1983.
Are you legit?
That's a dog. Hi Nana. It's Dylan. Yeah, how are you? Yeah. Yep, alright, see you then. Place where she would make it seem like there's something to do every single week. And she'll call up every week like, oh, you gotta now cut these trees, or you gotta do these ones. So you know what I used to do? You never seen a tree like mine, like trunk. Like,
It's all shrunk and there's just a little bit of leaf on top. That's gardening at its finest. If you need garden services, call us up as well. Mostly trunk, couple of leaves. That's our motto.
that could sell actually, because that means the customer don't have to spend so much money.
Yeah.
Every season. Because I bet you other gardeners, they just trim off a little tiny bit. So
Yeah, and then they come back every fucking 3 days and take off one more leaf and one more leaf.
Yeah,
Excited. Where we going?
I reckon we'll have a quick geeze in IKEA.
Yeah? Wait, can you see IKEA? Security. I don't think I've ever been to IKEA.
Haven't you?
No.
Mate. The guy that created IKEA is one of the smartest businessmen of all time.
Fucking no shit. He is pumping.
You've got time to lean, you've got time to clean.
Love it. Still got it up.
He fucking made it up. I copied him.
You're a fucking liar.
I fucking copied him, mate.
You are a liar. So the story behind that is, if you got time to lean, you got time to clean. That was one of the mottos or phrases that Dylan left us at Nando's before he moved on to another store, and we had it literally like taped to the wall on like some big poster, and it was essentially as it sounds. Like, it's not complicated, but if you got time to lean, you got time to clean. So we're promoting hard work and trying to motivate the staff as much as possible. It's not like he lied, but I honestly did not know that he didn't create that. So I thought he was some type of genius. But now that we know, like, we essentially, we have our own way of doing things. It's kind of like we've just learned from hundreds of books and hundreds of, A-class people, and we've just kind of accumulated it all into one big system. So I'm not talking to you anymore. I literally thought you made that up. Oh, your office works.
Yeah, mate.
Take him on. Oh, actually, I will. You might think this is overcritical, but as a full-time trader, full-time investor, I now understand risk to a much different level than most people. So what I believe there is a lack of understanding, of risk to reward ratio, right? So if I take on that car, I get what there 1 second earlier. What's the point, right? It's very, very silly. So, and the risk being we crash, burn, and die, which is not ideal, as you can imagine. So me becoming a trader, and that's how it kind of filters into life and character development, is it's helped me understand risk to a completely different level. So obviously would never do that now. Oh, Jesus. What the fuck was that shit, mate?
Bloody off-road driver, mate.
Have a look at me car, mate. She's not built for that. Little downbackers.
Dark.
You want a better park or something?
Not bad, not bad. Brakes on.
That can't be the design, can it? This is what I saw on the internet. This is what I want.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Prep before it.
It's too big.
For your room.
Yeah.
Wise.
No, get in. She's beautiful, mate. There we are. We're successful. There we go. Nice little whiteboard. Let's get him in. Come on, mate. Open up the car. What are you doing?
Sorry, mate. I'll just do everything I just boss.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll help you. I'll help you, mate. So yeah, we weren't successful at IKEA. We saw the $200 sofa and it was the worst thing ever. It's like little kids sofa.
Half a person sofa.
Yeah, but at least we were successful with the whiteboard, got that. Tomorrow, we're going again with the ute. Going back to Nan. Danny D can meet good old Nan. Do you want one actually? Or what? I got two. You want one?
Oh, fuck yeah. I need to take that other one down as well. Keep it.
So the calendars there, that we used to stick them up on the wall, and what we would do with them is we would use them to create habits, right? So we speak about this in podcast episode 5. Don't quote me; it's whichever one that says willpower and habits. So go and check that one out. But the premise is that we would whatever habit we're trying to create. Let's say it's diet. We're trying to follow a diet. We'd pick a color, and we'd write down if we do a good job of that for the day, we stay under our calories, we'd write it down for that day in that color. And then if you kind of, as you can imagine, I should say, once you write it down a few times and you kind of get that momentum building with that habit, you actually get addicted to creating what we call that rainbow, right? So if you then join on a couple other habits in different colors, let's say it's exercise, etc., you have a nice big rainbow going through your calendar, and you really, really do get addicted. And once that, kind of rainbow's there, it's very, very hard to not do that every single day. And it becomes kind of subconscious and then becomes a habit. And then, we talk about it in the willpower episode even deeper. So go and check that out.
Yeah.
Because they're fucking really expensive.
Alright.
I'll say, man.
Fucking empty here.
See you tomorrow, hopefully.
Yeah, Ripper. I'll probably see you anyway. Come by.
Yeah, no worries. See you, man. Bye.
All right. So that was Danny D. Wow. Yeah, like I said, if you knew me back then, kind of obviously a completely different person now. But I really want to highlight the character difference and what's possible by dedicating yourself to knowledge and learning. And this is what we're trying to do with the podcast. So you can get all this knowledge from the podcast. Please go and check it out. I thought this was really, really fun for me to do. I really enjoyed it, and I think it really highlights a difference well. So go and check out the podcast. If you like this reaction video, let me know, and I'll continue to do them because I really enjoyed the process of actually making them. So like, comment, hit the notification bell, all that good stuff. And yeah, appreciate it. Let's go.